Good evening, everyone, and welcome to This Week from Rockdale. And as usual, I am your host, Larry Cox, and I'm glad to see each and every one of you on the show tonight. So let me go on here and say hello to some people. So good evening, Doug Witham. Nice to have you here tonight. Lisa Lancaster, great to have you. Danielle Munoz, great to have you. Dan Burks, great to see you this evening, Dan. Judy Bond, great to have you here, Judy. Marie Withers, great to have you. Cheryl Moulton, Jill Oden, Angela Esper, William Campbell, Alex McDonald. Great to have you guys here tonight on This Week from Rockdale. And as usual, you know what, guys, we're gonna talk about our usual cast of thugs tonight: the Board of Commission, Board of Education, City of Conyers. I mean, we're gonna just expose them all like we always expose them to be the non-truth telling clowns that they are. So yesterday, I wasn't able to attend, but Ken Holmes from the Rockdale Voter was able to attend a meet and greet informative meeting that our local legislative delegation had. And from what I understand in my report from Ken, it was quite the spectacle yesterday and quite a show. Joey Williams, nice to have you here. There were a lot of tough questions asked yesterday, and some of the toughest questions asked were about the 5 commission. I got pretty heated from what Ken told me about that, and Ken says it's very apparent when they discuss it that we've got 3 of our 5 delegation that are definitely for that legislation, and we have 2 that are not. One of them is just outright opposed, and the other one is like she's sitting on a fence and really doesn't care, and we're going to have to get her off the fence and get her into looking at Rockdale County, and you just got a little bit of it, but you still have a vote. So So Lisa, I'm going to put this up here for a second, and Ken and I discuss this and whatever. Larry, I have a question. I understand at the meeting yesterday with the Diggle, they expressed concern over the 5 commissioners having to pay a lawyer, don't have an attorney on retainer for the county. Let me explain. What this is in that legislation, they put in there that they wanted an ethics board. I would like to see them take that portion out of this particular legislation and deal with an ethics board in a separate piece of local legislation, not attached to the expansion of the board. So a lot of people got a little bit concerned about the expense of the ethics board, because when you read the legislation, it is a little loosey-goosey. So the intent, after speaking to people who drafted this and such, the intent of the legislation was to be able to pay for like a secretary and an attorney that the board may have to have. You know what? I don't think we should deal with this portion. If we want an ethics board, that's something separate than from the expansion of the commission. Shouldn't be looped together. This is why a lot of times when they start looping these things together, we lose focus on what the main topic is. Main topic is expanding the Board of Commission. So that should be the main topic and not loop in an ethics board. Just like, let's talk about the courthouse, for example. But with the courthouse, it was courthouse. We need this. We've got all these repairs. Not safe and this and that. Well, it's went now from being courthouse to 65% administrative building versus the courthouse. The courthouse was the emotional drawing point. It was the emotional draw that got people involved. Well, we've got to have this. We can't leave the judges unprotected. We can't have juveniles running around and in there with not being in secret areas. And they used all this to tug at heartstrings when they really wanted to focus on an administrative building with a side of courthouse. And that's exactly what, when you look at what they're wanting to do, 65% of the expenditure will go to an admin building. I do I'm going to talk about some of that here in a little bit, about the funding for that and stuff. So, yeah. So when I talked to Ken Holmes today, and he had asked some questions, and he got his perspective of the meeting. It's his opinion that Rhonda Taylor, Angela Moore, and Senator Anderson are all in favor of the expansion of the board, and particularly, some of their reasoning was to actually do away with the all-powerful chairperson, so that we could, divide that power among the board and have a county manager running the day-to-day. Now, there were some things, I think, in that legislation that I think we need to fix. I think some people in the audience brought up the thing about, that the county manager could do up to $50,000 contracts without the approval of the board. I do not agree with that. I do not think the county manager should have the ability to spend one dime without the approval of the board, because the county manager is only there, in my opinion, to do the day-to-day operation of the county. But the elected officials, I think, must set the budget, must set the agenda, and approve all expenditures. Don't think the county manager should have any of the authority to spend money like that. And I think even from moving forward, I think they need to run even $1,000 contract through procurement. I don't think, because this deal where they use the example, if it was a $200,000 contract, dividing it up into four $50,000 contracts. The chairman does that nonsense now. So what we need to do is we say, no, there's no more of that. All contracts go through procurement in a bid process. So, the GDOT, I do a lot of work for GDOT. Even when they do maintenance contracts even go through the procurement project. Nobody just gets awarded a contract. Every contract is bid on. So I think every contract must be put out for bid. And they may need to clump some together or whatever to make it worthwhile. But I don't think these giving contracts away, even for these smaller amounts, is a good idea. They need to go through the procurement process, and they need to be bid on in a qualified bidder's list. That's my opinion about that. So when we were talking about the courthouse, and you were talking, we talk about the PFA and all that kind of such, and we talk about the budget and $110 million and all these things. I want to make people aware that the SPLOST that just ended had an overage. They estimated it would come in at X dollar, but it came in collecting $40 million more dollars than expected. The SPLOST that just ended. The new SPLOST that we're going into now, if it follows the same collection and they use the same projected revenue collection projections, this new SPLOST is going to come $40 to $60 million. They will have an overage in it also. So what we look at is, if this commission would have planned ahead and planned smartly, we could have used the overage from the past SPLOST and what the overage is going to be from the next SPLOST, which would have given them $80 to $100 million to have built what we needed built at Parker Road. And that could have been some, an administrative annex with the court, with some courthouse, that we could have built multiple buildings over there at that site. So, but that's not what they want to do, because if you use that revenue source, then you can't divvy it up, and it can't be corrupt. You can't do all this stuff with the bonding, and you can't procure land in Old Town and do payoffs, because we already own the property at Parker Road. So there can't be kickbacks on property you already own. So there is a big problem in its own is the fact that we own the property. Makes so much sense to build it there because you don't have to acquire the property. Once you don't have to acquire properties, that takes the amount down that, as far as when it comes to building something, you don't have to acquire the property. You already own the property. So that's an expenditure that you can eliminate because you did not have to acquire properties. We know that's, off a 4-lane road, accessibility is going to be great. The construction process over there would be fantastic because you have an area that you'll do lay down yard. You have an area that you'll be able to actually build from, not like in Old Town. It'd be very difficult to have lay down yards. You're going to have to ship things in every day. You're going to have to block traffic, stop traffic. It is going to be a logistical nightmare to do a project the magnitude of what they want to accomplish in Old Town. They will virtually shut every business in Old Town will go out of business during this project because you will not have access to Old Town because they're not going to do the construction at night. They're not going to, even if they would, you're still going to block and eliminate. You're going to have utility interruptions in Old Town. It is going to be very difficult to do business as usual in Old Town Conyers, doing a project of this magnitude. So there's what we look at. So I think what we've got to do, is do that. I mean, one of the questions too is they talked to the delegation, about the PFA and it being introduced for the purpose of the courthouse. And I think we've got Doreen Carter, who is in La La Land. She said, well, that's not what the purpose of the PFA was. That's solely the only purpose this PA. I know the PFA, they could build anything they wanted to with that PFA. Not really, but they're going to. But we all know the intent of the PFA was to fund a courthouse project, which is actually an admin courthouse project. So she tried to argue, well, that was not the purpose of the PFA. That was the purpose of the PFA because one of the commissioners, Washington, even mentioned it at one of these legislative breakfasts about finding a creative way, like a PFA, to build a courthouse. So it was the intent all along to use the PFA to build a courthouse. And now to pretend all of a sudden that, well, no, we didn't pass the PFA. You 100% passed the PFA to build a courthouse because that's what they discussed when they discussed the PFA in the beginning, was building a courthouse with it. So, we've got these elected officials sometimes get selective amnesia and they live in a fantasy world. So, guys, it is just ridiculous. So at the Rockdale voter, Ken Holmes and I discussed this today. And we're sending some emails out to some Rockdale County citizens, and this is going to be a bipartisan committee that the Rockdale voter is putting together. It's going to be 7 or 8 citizens of Rockdale County. We are going to put this bipartisan committee together, and we're going to discuss the legislation and some changes that we think need to be made. We're going to involve the author of the legislation, Rhonda Taylor. We're going to invite her to a committee meeting. Then after we have a committee meeting with the representative and we discuss some changes to the bill so we can change the bill so it can be introduced next session and be viable moving forward. Then we're going to have a town hall meeting, discuss the legislation, what changes could be made, even get input from the citizens of, this is the legislation. These are the challenges we have. What do you think? Then we'll go take this stuff back, and then we're going to send out some opinion polls to everybody. We're going to send opinion polls out. We're going to have the opinion polls on the Rockdale voter site, and we're going to ask people of these options, what would you like to see? So we're going to get your opinion. Then we're going to send, go back to our committee. We'll put your input in with our input. And we'll send Ms. Taylor back an email suggesting changes to the existing legislation because they're going to have to change the existing legislation because it didn't pass, and we've got elections coming up in 24, and we'll have to amend the legislation to mix with the elections that are going to happen in 24. So I think that's all possible. But I'm going to be frank about something. I think we need to find a candidate to run against Ms. Carter right now. I think that we need a couple, one or two people that would be willing to run a serious campaign against Doreen Carter, because I think unless she is challenged, I think she will end up opposing this legislation because of a friendship that she has with the chairman, and she wants to make sure he's reelected, and it's all about him in a retirement, and it's about Doreen Carter representing the board and not representing you, the citizens of Rockdale County. And then I think we need to educate Representative Kendrick about what the actual needs of the Rockdale citizens are. We need to invite her to these town halls that we're going to have. We need to send her the results of the polling that we're going to do. So, we need to sway one of these individuals, or we need to replace Doreen Carter, one or the other. And maybe if Miss Carter realizes that she's going to be challenged, that she'll see the light of day and vote the way that she needs to vote and actually represent the needs and will of the citizens of Rockdale County, and not represent the will and need of the Rockdale County Board of Commission. Because these delegates and such do not need to be representing the commission. They need to represent Rockdale County, the citizens of Rockdale County. That's who needs to be represented. It's because Doreen Carter is too concerned about the changing of the form of government. Government is of the people, for the people, and by the people. So if the people of a community decide they want to change their form of government, then that's who that lies within. It doesn't lie within the Board of Commission or the delegation to tell the citizens they don't have the right to vote on changing the form of government they currently have. And that's what we're asking to do. We're asking that this legislation be introduced, that it be a ballot initiative, and that we do that. Alex, Rhonda mentioned that if that we couldn't get it through this way, that her other alternative would be to go through a general bill, and that would be that can be very difficult. We've seen that in the past. I would prefer the local legislation route, but I do think if it's going to be blocked again by a couple of delegates, I think that we could go the general legislative route and make that happen. That's what I would like to see happen also. But I think we could go that route, but it would be much easier to go through the local delegation route, and that's going to be our first fight to do that, and then we'll see what happens with that. Because Representative Taylor did mention that alternative of making a general bill. So we'll see whichever we can and should do. But a lot of times it's hard to put a coalition together to do that. Sometimes those bills they fail when you take them general also. So we'll just see what happens with it. I think our best bet actually is to actually get one of those two to actually reverse their position and support Representatives Taylor and Moore and Senator Anderson in this local legislation. Because I would love to, I'd love to see a couple of people run against Doreen Carter and send a message, because Rockdale County does carry that House district, and then there's some of Newton County. So if a Rockdale County resident or Newton County resident would challenge Doreen Carter, she gets very few votes from DeKalb County. DeKalb County does not carry that district. It's actually Rockdale County is the majority of the votes of that House district. So a strong Rockdale County resident, and we've got a lot of friends in Newton County that I believe that we could help get the support. A candidate running from Rockdale County, because that's closer geographically to them also, and I think that person would garner more support than someone who's all the way, doesn't even touch landmass wise to Newton County. So that's the way I see it. I see that it could be a win-win for the citizens of Rockdale County. Guys, I think it's just that important that we as citizens of Rockdale County realize that this is something that we can win. We definitely can win this. It's going to take a concentrated effort, and it's going to take us working as a team. The Rockdale voter is going to, put together that committee, and we're going to, have the town halls. We're going to, discuss changes that can be made to this legislation, because it has to be amended because it didn't pass, and there are things that have to be changed. So we're going to look at that. And one of the things I'm going to actually recommend is we take that ethics thing out. Let's just take it out of this, and if we need, and why don't you introduce a separate piece of legislation and draft that and not have that connected to the commission? And then someone had even suggested that instead of an ethics, you have a oversight committee instead of an ethics board. Because I think we've tried several ethics boards in counties around Rockdale, and those ethics boards have failed miserably. So, and they've all been a waste of whatever monies were put into them. So I probably would like the idea of a volunteer board of oversight rather than an ethics board, because let's be frank, Board of Commissioners is not going to really listen to either one, but I would rather have it on the front end than the back end. Have an oversight committee looking at things before they're going to occur, rather than ethics committee look at things after they've already occurred. So I would rather see it done on the front end rather than the back end. I think it's something we can discuss on the board that we're going to have, and something that we can discuss at the town halls about. Let's remove this ethics board from this piece of legislation, and let's just deal with the expansion of the board and how we make that happen, and how it benefits the citizens of Rockdale County moving forward. That's the way I see it, and that's what I would love to see happen as we move forward in Rockdale County. I just think that there's so much potential and so much opportunity for the citizens of Rockdale County to be involved in how Rockdale County moves forward. Because if we don't get involved, Rockdale County has been headed down the wrong path for many years now. We've been headed down the path of just destruction and nonsense under the leadership of Oz Nesbitt. And that's got to stop, and it has to end. So, one of the ways we can do that is diluting that power, not taking away that chairman position and just making it a regular commission position, and diluting that power and diluting that vote, and giving representation to the whole county instead of just centralized Rockdale County. When the outskirts of Rockdale County have a voice, then things will change, because the needs of the outside of the city limits are different than the needs of inside central Rockdale. And when those needs start to be recognized, then we'll see that there's a different dynamic in Rockdale County that'll come alive, and we'll see that different dynamic materialize. So, guys, I just want to say thank you for joining me tonight. I think I was able to cover what I needed to cover, discuss the issues that I needed to discuss in a timely manner. Get off of here. You can all go back to your Sunday evening, think about this, and I'm going to let you guys know whenever we have the board meeting. I'll let you know what recommendations we've come up with, and we'll be announcing when we're going to have that town hall to discuss the recommendations and then ask for additional recommendations from you, the citizens of Rockdale County. So just to let you all know, we have one more Chromebook that we're going to give away. So I am not doing a show this coming weekend. This is going to be Memorial Weekend. I have some plans. So I will not be doing a show on May the 28th, but I will be doing a show on, let me look at my calendar up here. So it'll be June the 4th. So I'll be doing a show on June the 4th. We'll be not doing a show on May 28th, but we'll be doing my next show on June the 4th. And on that day, we will be giving away our third and final Chromebook. So after we give that Chromebook away, then give us a couple of weeks and we'll be getting a firearm, and we'll be at that point, we'll be raffling off a firearm. And we're still in the works right now of working out the details and the logistics on raffling off that car. So our goal is to get a vehicle and start selling tickets this fall when we want to raffle that car off for Christmas. So we want somebody to have a really good Christmas by winning a car. So that's the goal of we want to do. And then, like I said, and at the Rockdale Voter, we're going to use all proceeds to work on issues like the 5 Commission, opposing the E-Splost, advocating for candidates running for sheriff, post 1 and post 2. So that's what, for post 1 and chairman, and also for candidates running for Board of Education positions next year in 24. The Rockdale Voter hopes to raise a significant amount of funds so that we can send mailers out, do other advertising, so that we can let you, the voters of Rockdale County, know who we support, why we support them, and then give those candidates a platform on the Rockdale Voter so that they can let you know who they are and what they are. And then, of course, I intend to invite those candidates on This Week from Rockdale and interview them and talk to them so that they can come on this show and their vision for Rockdale can be heard by you, the voters of Rockdale, so that you can spread the word, pass the word, and vote for a new direction for Rockdale County. Guys, thank you, and I will see you in 2 weeks. And remember, we can change Rockdale County for the better.